Yeah. Well, congratulations on the Puppetman. This is your fourth feature, and it's in your most recent collaboration with Shudder. So
Hmm.
congratulations.
Thanks.
Um, you're really good at making scary movies. How do you do it?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, that's a multifaceted question, I think that
Very easy
I don't,
question.
yeah, I mean, ultimately it just comes down to like looking inside yourself and seeing what scares you, because I think just in general, horror is such a broad genre right now. Like it's worldwide. These movies are coming from everywhere. You've got things like, The Wailing coming out of, Asia, things like it's literally everywhere. There's just horror. And I mean, when you break it down to what it is, they're usually pretty similar. It's like darkness, it's being alone, it's all these things. And there's always things like trauma and grief and things that are always tied into it. And basically you're just taking like an essential human component, which is, these experiences, trauma, grief, things like that, and you're just sort of spinning it into something, like a metaphor for something that could scare you. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting just how international I think horror is. So, the things that scare
Yeah.
me scare people everywhere. So it's just sort of like what scares me or what scares, the people in my family, whatever, and just taking that and exploiting it because I mean it's scary is scary. It's hard to really like quantify it beyond just
Yeah.
the feeling.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna love When Evil Lurks, the new Demi and
Oh yeah.
Regna film coming to
Well,
Shudder. I mean, I think he's really good at making scary. And you just mentioned international horror, and I was like, speaking of really good international horror, but
yeah, Terrified
going
was
back,
dope.
it's even better than Terrified, in my opinion.
Cool.
And Terrified was so good. But anyway, back to
Yeah,
the Puppet Man.
sure.
Can you just tell viewers a little bit more about what the Puppet Man is if they aren't unfamiliar?
Yeah, so The Puppet Man is a supernatural thriller that takes place on a college campus, and it really kind of leans into that Final Destination style of, learning to understand who this group of characters, who they are, and then taking everything you know about them and turning it against them so that they can die in pretty horrifying ways. And I mean, that's really what it is. It's just kind of like a roller coaster of bad feelings. Where you just sort of you start dark, but then you meet this group and it's just like a very normal group. And then the more you get to know them, hopefully the more that you like them, so that when they do ultimately, go to where they're going, you feel a little shitty about it.
Yeah, you're really good at those deaths that you're like, wait, what? No, that person, I really liked that person. You're really good at that bait and switch. And I feel like I should be used to that by now. But you hit that bait and switch so well, but you also are so good at crafting these just like gnarly kills. And so I'm curious, and because I recently talked to the Saw guys about like how they put the kills in after they write the script. How does it go for you? Do you like, is there a process for you when you insert your kill moments, or is it like, what is your kind of philosophy behind putting those in the film?
A lot of them come from like the shot of the death,
Yeah, okay.
like Superhost had the shot with the knife going through Barbara Crampton's head, and that was kind of like I was like, oh, that's such a cool image to have, an icon of horror like Barbara Crampton with a knife through her jaw coming out the face and stuff like that. So you kind of reverse engineer it from the idea. So like the big one in this film to me is the weightlifting one with Glenn, which is
Very
part
Nightmare on
of.
Elm Street five or six is anyway.
Is there a workout death in that? Like
Oh
similar?
yeah, I can't
Oh
remember which
shoot.
one. Everyone's gonna be yelling at me. It's not this. It's not like super similar, but there is a
Okay.
workout death, and it's very
Okay.
good. So
Okay,
yeah.
cool. It's been a long time since I've seen them. But either way, I mean, we were just sort of like working on the characters and figuring out who this group of five were, because you're kind of playing with the standard horror tropes. You've got like the bookish nerdy girl, you've got
Yeah.
the jock guy, and we're kind of like tweaking it a little bit because the jock guy isn't doing well. Like he is trying to, he's taking growth hormones. He's doing these things to try and get to where his brother is because he's kind of living in his shadow. So, it was very early on when we were just talking about who these characters were. It was like, well, the one thing that we're going to sort of, we're going to identify with this guy is the fact that he is this jock. He is this kind of guy striving to push himself to the limit or whatever. And he's just not, he wasn't born with it, and some people are, some people aren't. He wasn't. So, we thought, if he's not born with it, maybe he can die with it. And so that sort of was like, okay, well, if you're a muscle bound guy, how are you going to die in a horrible way? And what's it going to be? And that ended up being the way he goes. And again, it started with like the image of just the bar through the head and kind of working backwards from that, because like I
Cool.
had these conversations with the makeup team, and we're still a super indie film. Like it's a very small budget. You don't
Yeah.
have the teams of people that can build these elaborate things like the Saw guys would have. So you're just you're having conversations. It's like, okay, well, we can build a fake jaw, we can do all this stuff. And to me, I'm just like, honestly, especially with this death, it just always made me think of American History X, where he's
Mm.
curb stomps the guy, right? And and really, when you watch that scene, like everything is in the tension of the stomp before the stomp. You see the close up of his teeth touching the concrete, and you're just like, it just makes your skin crawl. But when he actually does it, it cuts to a big wide, and you don't really see anything, and it's just like you have so much information from seeing those close-ups. You know exactly what happened, but you don't actually see it. So that was kind of it with this too. It's like you see things, like you see the veins, you see his eye pop, you see his tooth pop,
Tooth
but
pop.
when that was
Oh.
something that happened in post, that wasn't anticipated. But and then when he finally drops it, like cuts to a big wide, it does that. And then when you see, how gross it is, it's out of focus. Like you see his hand is in
Yeah.
focus, and that drops because it's like the puppet man letting go. But yeah, I mean, it's a little classier than just showing like a close up of his face. Even later when the cop shows the picture of it, it's still kind of out of focus and you can't really see.
Yeah.
So it's just like, how can we? I think that the viewer's imagination, and this goes back to when I was a kid, like when my mom would cover my eyes watching The Shining during the scary parts, what I would see behind those hands was way grosser and way scarier than anything the filmmaker could do. So,
Yeah.
you're kind of, I mean, Z did the same thing. Like it's very much like a less is more approach, like Jaws, even, the
Yeah.
less you see, the more you fill in the blanks on your own. So that's kind of
Yeah.
like, I think that's where a lot of it comes from, is just trying to toe that line a little bit.
I will say I loved the Curtis David Harder Easter egg as the
Oh,
person who
funny.
wrote the article. I know that you guys have worked together on a lot of films. I love his work as well. So it's cool. I just wanted to point, I was just funny to see his name and be like, oh yeah, you guys work together all the time. And I'll be like, these movies you guys make. I love like the movies y'all make are so cool and weird. And because you
That's
worked a
funny.
little bit on his most recent film, right?
Yeah, I was a producer on it. I did all the
Producer. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
VFX, and yeah, I
Oh,
wasn't in
cool.
Thailand, but I was, having daily meetings
Darn.
about the script with him and stuff. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I was just sort of around for the whole thing.
So
But
cool
yeah,
to have
Kurt,
like such a collective of like filmmakers like that that you guys
yeah,
can work with each other on your movies.
for sure. Yeah, he's super talented. I think, he's still so young. I've got a car older than him, and he's got a bright future ahead of him for sure.
So I do want to hear from you. Like, what is the scariest movie you've ever seen? I'm curious.
Um, uh, the Blair Witch Project for sure.
Okay.
And it
Hell
wasn't even
yeah.
really the film itself. I mean, I'm sure a ton of people had the same experience with me with all, like, because that movie like started the viral internet movement. I'm sure just the
I've got
fake
the I've
websites.
got the
Oh,
Blair Witch
amazing!
Project. Yeah.
So you get it, but just I went to a pre-screening before release in Langley, British Columbia with my cousin. We got tickets somehow for like a midnight
Whoa.
screening, and I didn't know what it was. Like, so we were looking on the internet, and the internet was still pretty primitive back then. But we find the website, and you're reading everything, and like I went to that film thinking that it was a documentary, like a real thing. And so when it ended, and like that iconic final shot, I just legitimately thought I watched these teenagers die. And I was in the eighth grade at the time. It was the summer, and I just remember being at my cousin's house and just like sobbing myself to sleep because I was so scared. And I've never recreated that. I mean, I've been scared a lot and a lot of stuff. Like, James Wan is a master of kind of dark tension, but I've never felt that feeling of just being stuck thinking that something was real for so long, because I couldn't verify that it wasn't real until
Yeah.
later. So it was just like a week of just like living in hell, thinking, oh my God, like what did I just watch? So definitely that.
I definitely like when I saw that movie. And I am from Maryland. I say this all the time, but I'm from
Oh,
Maryland and
cool.
I live close by to where they filmed it. So like going to
Awesome.
camp in the summers in the woods, even if it wasn't near there, I was like, she's out here. She's here.
Hmm.
She's out to get me. So before we wrap up, Brandon, can you tease anything you have coming up? Like what's next for you on the horizon?
Yeah, I'm actually in. I can't say too much about it, but I shot another film in April, May, and it's in
Cool.
post-production now. It's something totally, I mean, it's still very, very horror, but it's a different medium than I've done before, and it's the first time I'm not editing it right now. I did
Whoa.
the Puppetman, I edited it, did all the VFX, and then I immediately jumped into It's a Wonderful Knife, and I did all the VFX on that.
Oh, hell yeah. That trailer just came
Yeah.
out today. I'm so
Yeah, yeah.
stoked. It looks so good.
Yeah, it's a really cool film. I think Tyler did
Hell
a great
yeah.
job. But yeah, I just like I had finished those two films and I was just like I cannot take on another computer screen for 15 hours a day. So we've hired a guy and he's taking the ball right now for now. And yeah, I'm excited. I should be seeing like the first cut probably in the next week or so.
Ooh, that's so exciting. Ooh, I'm so excited for whatever you have
Yeah,
next. You're very
I
good at
just can't
steering. So. Yeah.
say what it is because it's got a specific gimmick that has not been done. And yeah, I'm excited to sort of
Ooh,
unleash it to the world.
ooh. Oh, I'm so excited. That's so cool. All right. Well, Brandon, thank you so much. And everyone, The Puppet Man is on Shudder on the 13th of
Yep,
October. So
yep,
please check it out if you're ready to
for
get
sure.
scared this Halloween.